Hey, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over. I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison.
And we're just talking for about a second here before we got started. We got an awful lot here to cover today. Merle, I'm just going to read to you a list, and we won't get to all of it, but I want you to be able to pick what you would want. And I know you have additional stuff too. So I'm going to talk to you guys about edible mushrooms that protect your brain. That won't take too long. I want to also talk about what's going on with the RussellBrand and now Tom Ballard.
I don't know who Tom Ballard is.
Yeah, Sound of Freedom guy.
The
movie was based on. He's all of a sudden getting the RussellBrand treatment as well.
It's very popular kind of way of putting political enemies away.
Yeah, I want to also talk briefly about Peter Berg was on Rogan the other day, and he is the author, maybe director, of the series Painkiller, which we talked about before. We talked about Dope Sick. It's same thing. It's based on the Sackler family and the OxyContin thing. Yeah. And I just have some stats. The Sacklers need to be brought to justice. I know it's never going to happen, but my God, they're responsible for about 360,000 deaths at latest count. Dude, I also want to talk about the James Webb telescope may have found a planet with life on it. It's very preliminary yet. And Lauren Boebert. How do you say her name? Boebert?
Boebert.
Boebert? Okay. Mm-hmm. Got to talk about her a bit. Wow. She's just embarrassed a whole section of the country there. And also then Lisa prompted me. She's like, you got to check out the 5. She said this last night. They did a really good piece, in particular, Greg Gutfeld, of course, did a really good piece on the teen driver that appears to intentionally have hit the retired police chief in Nevada.
That was so awful.
It is beyond awful. And Gutfeld made some really good points about that, how the media caused
that was good. Yeah, I didn't really see how the media covered that at all. I saw the video.
Well, they didn't.
I was appalled. It's just sick.
Yeah, it's as he said just briefly, wrong pigmentation doesn't fit their agenda, so they really didn't call it. You can search that, guys. You could search that on Google right now, and you won't find anything from CNN, NBC, ABC, all of the typical propaganda media outlets. And his name is Andreas Probst, Probst, or you could just write in teen driver intentionally kills retired police chief. Okay, but I do want to start with something incredibly helpful. Did you want to say that? No, we're going to keep yours a surprise. I was going to say, do you want to just list that?
Whatever. Now, go.
Okay.
All right.
So I want to talk about these mushrooms because this is really some good information.
What are we talking about here, Barry?
I learned a lot here. This is not the mind-expanding kind of mushrooms. Okay. These are edible mushrooms. Well, I guess all are edible, right?
No,
I would like to talk about
all edible.
I would like to talk about the mind-expanding ones someday because there's some excellent theories. There's it's a famous college that is trying to, just speaking to the psilocybin mushrooms right now, they're trying to map that other dimension. They're doing studies where people seem to have commonalities in what they're seeing, hallucinating, and they're trying to map that hallucinogenic.
Good luck with that.
Yeah. All right, so let's get to this. There's nothing like the savory deliciousness of portobello or white button mushrooms in stir-fry soups, pasta dishes, or sauces, but it's not just your taste buds that stand to benefit. Eating mushrooms may help protect your brain as it ages. Researchers in Singapore, where mushrooms are a staple, recently found that older adults who eat more than 2 3/4 cup servings of cooked mushrooms weekly have a 50% lower risk of mild cognitive impairment, and that's the condition that often precedes dementia. So you 50%. See 50%.
Wow.
And it gets better than this. There's so many, superfoods, so-called superfoods. I try to remember it by
I've heard of them.
BOMS, BOMS, and it's beans, onions, mushrooms, and whatever else is. I always forget that, but mushrooms is a superfood. And so this gets a lot better with its benefits. Lesser amounts of mushrooms also showed benefit. While this study focused on 6 types of mushrooms that are commonly eaten in Singapore, there's a reason to think all edible mushrooms may be protective. In this and other studies, scientists have honed in on a compound called, ergothioneine. I think that's how you say it, ergothioneine. And it's just abbreviated ET, which has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant effects and is present in all mushrooms. That's huge right there, folks. Anti-inflammatory and antioxidant. Present in all mushrooms. Mushrooms are a good source of nutrients such as B vitamins, zinc, magnesium, and selenium. 2 more perks yet. Mushrooms rich in the savory flavor, aka umami. That's I even had to look it up. I've heard of umami, didn't really know it. That just means a very savory. I can't say it.
It's savory
flavor, like meat. We think of like meat. Mushrooms have that same savory flavor.
Meat-like, yes.
Right. So it may help you cut down on meat. I think meat's getting a bad rap right there.
Too bad.
Yes, and eating umami-rich foods may help prevent overeating and could lead to better food choices. I think that's a really good reason to make an effort to increase the amount of mushrooms you put in your diet. This also reminds me, just about 2 days ago, I was walking Charlie, and a new friend of ours, fellow dog walker, he's a doctor at Case and does research. He tells me about he and his wife have a mushroom farm. And it's basically a big rotten log, and mushrooms are growing out of it. He tends to it and all. And like, well, what do you do with that? And apparently he knew about this before I did. He says, well, just sauteed. They're wonderful, but we like to put them in Chinese food and all kinds of other things. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great idea. I think this is Lisa likes to make a ton of vegetables every week. And I think if we threw some mushrooms in each week with these as well, couldn't go wrong with that.
Yeah. I personally love mushrooms myself, especially on a big juicy steak. And you cut those mushrooms up, and you get that and the onion and everything.
Agreed.
Boy, it doesn't get much better than that.
It doubles the enjoyment.
Believe when I was a kid, I remember my Uncle Fred sauteed up some mushrooms, and I would not have any. I was like, you know how you are when you're a kid, you're just stupid, and I'm like, no. And he forced me to have some. I think it's because he forced it. I didn't like it, and I didn't have mushrooms for like maybe 15-20 years.
Well,
I don't like mushrooms.
They're creepy looking. They're fungus.
They're weird.
I mean, yeah,
but they sure are good. And, and boy, do they ever add flavor to whatever you're cooking.
Put on a burger.
Add flavor. It was savory. Yeah, mushroom burger. Oh my gosh, it's all good. I mean, I just like when they're all like you got them all sauteed and you got some salt on there. Man, this is good stuff right there.
Yeah, I totally agree.
But now that I know that it's going to help with my mental
cognitive
capacity, that's really good to know, Barry.
There's so many benefits there. So many, the antioxidant, anti-inflammatory aspect as well. You know, I just wanted to mention this briefly. Between last night and this morning at the gym, I was listening to the latest Andrew Huberman Lab podcast. Dr. Andrew Huberman, he's a neurologist. Brilliant guy with a terrific podcast. He did a podcast on the power of music, and it was very interesting, and talked about a lot of studies, how just listening to 9 minutes of your favorite music can bring you back to a happy kind of mood. And he went on. I mean, I'm really just trying to get to one quick point because I just want to encourage you guys to listen to the podcast yourself. But then he said, he was asked, in the studies about sadness, we all know that music can increase any kind of emotion that you can be having. Right. Yeah. I mean, it's amazing. And music predates the spoken language. Music and dance predates even the spoken language.
How do we know this?
I don't know. You may have mentioned it. I don't remember.
Okay.
But it's very interesting. So it's an ancient way of communicating or expressing ourselves. And so he posed the question, does music help us with sadness, or does it exacerbate that? Like if you are grieving a relationship loss or a pet or a person
and then you play a
lost.
bunch of country music, you're probably not going to feel better.
Or Carol King's "You're So Far Away."
Yeah,
oh my
right.
God,
Oh,
that one right there.
Right, I'm getting a lump in my throat right now.
Yeah. Well, he said studies have found that just, I believe, quote, I could be wrong by a minute or two, but 9 minutes of this kind of music will actually help guide you through that sadness, that it acts as a catharsis. So you'll process those feelings and feel them and instead of hide from them. So
that's very I'm in agreement with the magic of music here, because it really does. Your brain is impacted in I believe a whole different section of your brain is being activated by music. And as you're talking, Barry, I'm just thinking about how music is also used in memory. So if you put something to music, here's something. Have you ever heard a song that you haven't heard for like 20 years?
Yeah.
And it comes on and it starts playing, and then you just start singing the words right away. Like, those words from 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's true.
40 years ago. Crazy. But I remember also when I was in 4th grade, we were learning our multiplication tables. And this
is 1 year prior to your stand-up routine in 5th grade.
Yes. I had a very traumatic childhood.
That was so I'm sorry, go ahead about 4th grade.
6 times 8 was a tough one for us to remember. So I remember our student teacher taught us this. She goes, here's how you remember it. 6 times 8 is 48. How many years ago? That was like 50 years ago she taught me that. And I remember that. I'll never get that one wrong. And that's just great. Music, if you put music to something, you just never forget it. In the Bible, the Old Testament was first carried from generation to generation in an oral tradition. They memorized the whole thing and they put it to music. In fact, the book of Psalms, which is a large book in the Old Testament, is all songs. They're songs. And so you put it to music and it goes right into your soul.
Oh, that's great.
Interesting thing that happens here.
I follow that.
It's like a phenomenon.
No, I follow that. That's like I said, it's an ancient way of communicating and expressing ourselves. I have a couple more points on it, and just a couple.
Can I say this before you move on? But
I'm not moving on.
I believe that there are that we're only scratching the surface of what the potential of music is.
Sound in general.
Yes, I think that I was in the gym the other day and I was listening to some old Van Halen, and as I was running, because that beat, you just go, and but then I was thinking, and I love that music, but then I was thinking how simple this music is compared to some of the music I hear now, and just this progression that we're going through with music and how it changes and it advances. And I think that we're on the cusp of maybe something brand new with music. I kind of like there's some people that are experimenting with organic sounds and manipulating organic sounds. The sound of a bird played slowly and manipulating that. I think there's some stuff that we could do here that's going to be mind-blowing, but I'm excited about what you have next, Barry. Go ahead.
Well, and I'm just going to say to that is that I remember Graham Hancock on a Rogan podcast. He did a mini series on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse, and he talks about the probability of ancient civilizations that had technology different from what we had, but have been completely wiped out, and there's no evidence. And he goes back to the pyramids, and his theory, along with his partner, who talked very nerdy about that stuff, talked about they believed that it was sound, that they manipulated sound in order to cut the rocks with such precision and move them.
Interesting.
Yes.
I believe that it would be very easy for us to lose technology from ancient times. That's entirely possible.
Yeah.
And I also think that we, as where we live right now, we underestimate the brain power of ancient societies, because I personally believe that we were just as smart 4,000 years ago as we are now. We just didn't have all the technology, but human beings are great at figuring out workarounds. And I think a lot of those workarounds and gadgets and devices have been lost. In fact, going back to the Bible again, there are war scenes in the Bible that talk about war machines that are being used that are hard to figure out what they're talking about. And it sounds like they had technology back then that we just don't know about.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to sound very ignorant right now, but I like to sometimes go down the YouTube rabbit holes of seeing these ancient tools that we can't explain. I mean, there was something found in an old shipwreck that was a super complicated clock-like mechanism, and and I mean, so
I've heard
old
stuff like this.
Yeah, so it's worth looking.
One more thing. I remember, again, this goes back to like fourth grade, but we were learning, fourth or fifth grade, we were learning about Tutankhamun and the all the stuff they discovered inside of that pyramid. And then they gave us this exercise, and it was a fictitious archaeological find from in the future, like 500 years in the future. And what they found was this burial crypt and all these artifacts inside of this burial crypt. And one of them was this ceremonial headdress, and you put it on your head and everything. But what it actually was they found somebody's bathroom, and the headdress was the toilet seat. And they're like putting this toilet seat in. And so this was their interpretation. It's all fake, but it was an interpretation of what they found. And really what it was, are we actually interpreting what we see in these pyramids accurately, which could be like technology or something that we just don't know about. And we just, these people were primitive. This is just a headdress or whatever. You know what I mean?
I feel like I learned that in college at Kent, that same kind of analogy that you just described.
Fourth grade, college, whatever.
That's funny. That's funny. All right, let's finish up this music thing.
Yeah, this is good.
Andrew was talking about the power of music to help in productivity, and it's actually best, really summarizing, really best not to listen to music while you're trying to study or do cerebral work, but do it in between breaks. And that most people can't really concentrate heavily past 90 minutes, and so it's good to take a break then. But here's the most important one, because we have talked about the importance of anxiety on this show many times over our tenure. And so he talks about that. And there is a song, a musical number by Marconi Union. It's called Weightless. It's on YouTube. I'm going to go to it in a minute. I want to share it. This is the important part of the whole thing. Studies show the University of Pennsylvania did an intense study on this, and just 3 minutes of listening to this will reduce your anxiety by 65%. That's more effective than the top prescribed benzodiazepines, which are prescribed for anxiety.
Yeah.
Dude, that's crazy. So with that, I'm going to show you, this has 100 million views. 100 million, man. That's
crazy.
Yeah. So I'm just going to I want to send this to you, and I hope to remember to put the link in the show notes. And I'm only going to play a tiny bit. So I believe this is what you call binaural. What is the word? Beats. Binaural beats is what it's a thing that's been going on. It's being studied now. We don't know a whole lot about it, but it's the way that so right here you see 400, like 500,000 subscribers, 100 million views. It's been up for 9 years.
Wow.
And so this is, I listened to it for 3 minutes and 11 seconds, and I wasn't in a state of anxiety, but I get it. So this is just a small taste. I don't want to get copyright infringement. So just for a minute. Oh, I bet I didn't share sound.
Yeah.
Okay.
Try that again.
How to do that?
That's okay. It's that's
all right. Let's see. Where are we? There we are. And share sound. I hope it's not too loud as well. So tell me.
Oh, it is really loud. There we go.
So it's a lot of this.
It's sort of ethereal.
There's supposed to be Andrew explained the combination of the steady bass beating and then the stuff over the top.
Yeah.
It's best to listen in headphones because the way it gets divided up, one's going in the right ear, the other's going in the left ear, and it hits. We're back to the parasympathetic nervous system, and that is the part of the nervous system that gets you back into calm, versus the sympathetic, which is your fight or flight.
Yeah, and I could see how that could be very calming right there. What we just heard was very calming.
I would think that all of us could do well to listen to 3 minutes of this a day. If it reduces your anxiety by 65%.
Yeah.
Get you in a better vibrational harmony.
Well, and you know, when you're in that state, your ability to think and problem solve, and it's almost like you've greased the chain, and now everything is just flowing here. That's a good way to put it. Distracted by any kinds of oppressive anxiety or fears.
Those walls that build up.
Yeah, and you know, it's interesting. I've been studying a lot about faith versus fear, which I believe is the opposite of faith. So that, you know, and you talked about vibrating and just you're at a higher level of existence when you're operating in that realm of faith. And music seems to, and the right kinds of music seem to stimulate that higher level of consciousness. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense right there. Even just playing that for 10 seconds was impactful.
Yeah, I would say
I like the visuals too. That was interesting. I wonder if that plays into it.
I don't know. But myself, I would just, because I do things like this, I would just put the earbuds in and listen to it for a few minutes.
I was going to say, Barry, that we found this station on YouTube that just shows these amazing fish under the sea, and it's playing this great, you know, music sort of like that, and that's all it is. And it's just showing different scenes underwater. It's beautiful, but it's so relaxing. And we turned this on a few days ago. I mean, I don't know how long Anne Marie's known about it, but it feels like I just discovered it. And it reminded me of, remember when we lived in Kevin Titmus's house, and he had that tank. Huge 100-gallon saltwater fish tank. And I remember that, and boy, he worked all the time on that, and it was beautiful. I mean, the lighting, the fish, and then sometimes we'd just sit there and stare at those fish, and it was so calming. You know, I personally didn't want to have to do all that work, but it was nice he was doing it, and just looking at that was really something.
I think that's just the natural elements. Like, we're trying to stand around at a party outside, and everyone's going to stare into the fire and even get caught in a hypnotic kind of trance.
I've done that.
Same thing at a beach with the waves coming in, walking through a forest. It's all back to nature. And so, totally.
That makes sense. Yeah, I got totally it. Interesting.
So I'm turning this over to you. I mean, after this, I just have the, the more current events type stuff, but I think it's time for you to go.
Oh, okay. I was just doing some silly stuff here, getting ready to do the show. And I noticed this 10 hidden uses for toothpaste you've never tried. I know this is silly, but hey, we all have toothpaste in our house. And it's like, are there different ways that we can use toothpaste here? I'm going to share my screen here. Yep, we can kind of go through this. I started going through this, and I thought, this is, hey, that's pretty cool. How about number one is jewelry cleaner? If you want a new shine to your tarnished silver jewelry, gently scrub them with a soft cloth and some white toothpaste. And you rinse that off, and you want to avoid using it on pearls or gemstones because it's too abrasive. But there you go. Number one. I'm like, hey, I can get my ring all nice here. How about scuff remover? You got a scuff on your favorite shoes or walls, dab a little toothpaste on a cloth and rub it away, and it wipes off the excess gunk off of your shoes. So renew your shoes.
I got some tough in the rental property. There's a couple tough spots on the walls that, do I really want to rub toothpaste on there?
Yeah, you want to. Here's the thing too, Barry, is you want to experiment, get a little tiny area that you don't, that's not necessarily going to be seen, and try that a little bit. And if it works out, then you can expand it out. Here's another one: defogger for goggles and mirrors. You can rub a little bit on a bathroom, on your bathroom mirror, like put it on a cloth or something and rub it with your cleaner, and apparently it stops stuff from fogging up either your shower or your swimming goggles or whatever. Kind of cool.
It just seems like it would be so gummy.
Well, I don't think that you would think that too. I mean, rub a small amount of toothpaste on your bathroom mirror. How do you, I don't know, that's it. I don't know if I'm going to try that one. Here's one, pimple treatment. I mean, did you know this is, caught off guard by a sudden pimple, dab a tiny amount of non-gel white toothpaste on the spot and leave it overnight. The toothpaste will help reduce the redness and swelling, making it less noticeable by morning. Wow. You ever get like zits anymore, Barry?
Very, very rarely. But I'm kind of thinking that I could kind of see that working, because I think it could be like that. You know how you're supposed to put baking soda on a bee sting and it's supposed to help pull out the stinger? Yeah. I think it had that kind of effect.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Pull the oil out or something. Yeah. That totally makes sense to me too. And there's a drying agent in toothpaste too, so I can see it kind of sucking the whatever is out. I had I'm 57, right? We're 57. I don't really get a lot of zits anymore, but man, I put on my glasses the other day and I was driving, and when I got done, I got a zit right here on my nose, and it was prominent, and Anne-Marie put something on there and the next day it was gone. But gosh, I wonder if toothpaste would have done the job. Yeah, I think that's worth a shot.
Here's one, CD, DVD scratch repair. If you still cherish your CD or DVD collection, toothpaste will help with minor scratches. Gently rub some toothpaste on the scratch and wipe away with a clean, soft cloth. Play the disc again and enjoy a skip-free experience. Now,
that one I would have a very serious question on, because there are different kinds of toothpastes. They suggested that there's gel and non-gel. I got that. That's very different. Which of those are you going to use on that DVD?
I don't know. Gently rub some toothpaste on the scratch. Toothpaste. Yeah, I don't know. I just had this happen where an old CD, Anne-Marie put it in the the CD player, and it's like the phonograph. Anyway, and then we were jamming, and before you knew it, it was all messed up and everything. So if there's a way, I was ready to throw it in the trash. Yeah. But hey, maybe if it's worth a try. I mean,
I would start with the gel.
Trash anyhow.
Yeah, start with a gel, because the other kind would maybe just scratch the living hell out of it. The other kind is kind of grainy.
Yeah.
That's typically the kind I brush with.
You probably want to be careful with the real grainy stuff here.
Yeah,
but I don't know. Maybe not with this one. Clean an iron plate. Residue on your iron. Cool the iron. Rub some toothpaste on the plate. Scrub gently with a brush and wipe clean. This hack leaves your iron looking like new and ready for the next round of pressing. Okay, so this is your iron that you iron.
Yeah, iron skillet.
All right, but I'm thinking, no, this is
clothes iron.
I thought it was an iron skillet too, but I bet you could clean an iron skillet with that stuff too, because that's hard,
dude. The iron that you iron clothes with, I have on occasion. Well, not even me, my renters. I've come back and have like plastic or something all over it. That's a nightmare. That's a total nightmare.
If this has ever happened to you, this is one of the worst things. You travel, go to a hotel. Okay, you got a nice event. You got to iron your shirt. Whoever the last guy was got some stuff on the iron, and you don't know about it, and you put it on your shirt. Now your shirt's ruined, and now what are you gonna do? You got to wear your T-shirt to the event.
Yeah. Another household trick that is really good for a lot of uses is nail polish remover.
Oh yeah.
So I was talking about the iron that you iron clothes with. I'd go straight to the nail polish remover.
I gotcha. That's good. Okay, let's see. We only got a couple of. Oh, here's a good one. Relieve insect bites. For quick relief from itchy mosquito bites, apply a small dot of toothpaste on the affected area. Its cooling effect will soothe the itch and reduce the inflammation.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
Okay, man, these mosquitoes out here last year were brutal. I could have used that last year. This year, I think I've only been bitten twice. It's a weird year here in Arizona. Okay, two more. Headlight cleaner. Cloudy headlights on your car. Toothpaste could come to the rescue. Rub the toothpaste onto your headlights in a circular motion, rinse off and dry. You'll have cleaner, brighter headlights in no time. You know, they charge like $100 at the auto mechanic to do this. And
you gotta be kidding me. I'd be out there with some 99 bottle of Windex. I'd be fine.
No. See, what happens, Barry, is this happened to my car, my Taurus, because it was 20 years old. All right. I kept that car forever.
I remember it.
After a while, it was a great car. After a while, though, the glass, you couldn't wipe it off with Windex. It's like all scratched up. So that the brightness of the lights totally affected. By at night, it was like my lights weren't on. It was horrifying. Wow. And I took it to the auto repair place, and the guy's like, "Oh, I can fix that." And he charged me like $70 to fix it.
Wow.
And it was worth it, because I mean, if you can't see when you're driving, and you'll pay whatever. But here it only takes some. That's probably what he did. He went and got some Crest and put it on there and charged me $70. Okay, two more. Stain remover, whether it's ink, lipstick, or crayon, toothpaste can effectively lift stains from fabrics. Apply directly to the stain, rub gently, rinse, and launder as usual. Always do a spot test first to ensure fabric compatibility. That part's important. Like your tie. I always got stuff on my tie. Made me so angry. And ties, they're so expensive, unbelievably expensive. And so maybe that's a way to help. Last one, nail whitener. Yellow nails can be a pain, especially for those who frequently apply nail polish. Scrubbing your nails with toothpaste can help restore their natural whiteness.
Never would have thought that.
Yeah, me neither. And that's one for the ladies in the house here. I don't think.
And then some
ladies. Yeah. And there you go.
Cool.
I didn't know any of those. I thought that was interesting.
You know what I would like to just bring up, because I think it's that important. I mentioned before, Peter Berg was on Joe Rogan a few days ago, and he wrote the mini series Painkiller, which was about the Sackler family and the infiltration of OxyContin into society, where they got
that's horrible.
Hundreds of thousands of people addicted to heroin. It is heroin. It's just legalized heroin.
Right.
And the family is worth it. And I might screw this up a little bit. I'm going from memory, but I recall the family is worth like $12 billion, and they were fined $6 billion for their crime here, to be paid over 12 years. Like virtually nothing.
Slap on the wrist.
Yeah. I mean, so these people should be doing time, life in prison, and all that. And you know what they do? And he was talking, and I highly recommend that podcast. Peter Berg's a really interesting guy. And he and Joe had a very, very good chemistry. It was a good conversation about all kinds of things. And well, one thing he says people like Sacklers would do throughout time is they'll, donate to a hospital wing, get their name on a hospital wing, buy a bridge, do all kinds of these things that look like nice philanthropic kinds of things. And he even used the example of what's his name, Nobel, is the guy that developed dynamite and explosives that changed war from then on. So he developed a Nobel Peace Prize because he didn't want his legacy to be, I got people to blow each other up. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
The guy that invented dynamite, it's named after him?
The Nobel Peace Prize, yes. Yes, he developed a Nobel Peace Prize because he wanted that. Now that's what his name is known for, tricky stuff. So I'm
blown away by this, Barry. I mean, the Nobel Peace Prize and all the people that have died as a result of this guy's invention. Wow.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? We
Wow.
still do that to this day in various ways. There's a whole lot of movement spreading racism and sexism going on right now that this is going to lead to other things that is in the guise of being anti-racist and anti-sexist.
We go back to Ronald Reagan's quote again. The scariest words are we're the federal government, we're here to help. I mean,
right.
That's the thing is anytime they always package their oppression in, we're here to help.
Yes.
And so always be careful of that. Go ahead.
Right. Well, I forget where that was leading. I'll get back to that, but let's go ahead and just move into what is going on with RussellBrand right now. He claims that he got 2 letters from 2 different mainstream media outlets and accusing him of rape multiple times over and from 10 plus years ago. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I like a lot of what RussellBrand says all the time. Since he got clean and sober, his mind is wow. But I got to tell you at the same time, on the other hand, he's always given me a creep factor beyond what I can handle. Like I've never subscribed to his stuff because he just creeps me out. So I know this. He was really into heavy drugs. I think heroin and stuff.
Yes.
And he was at the height of his fame, meaning power, notoriety, all of that. And on top of that, he was a self imaged rock star like kind of a guy and figure. I don't doubt that most of those allegations are true. What I do find really suspicious is why they're coming out now at this time, all this time later.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty legitimate question here. And here's the thing is, we don't know these celebrities, although we think that we do. Yeah. I mean, O.J. Simpson, I remember when that whole thing happened. We saw him in movies, we saw him on the sideline, we saw him playing. I grew up watching him play, and when all these charges came, I couldn't believe it. I just had a hard time believing it. And it's pretty irrefutable that these things happened. But I remember also that I was shocked to find out, like, they had these recordings of OJ flying into a rage and all this kind of stuff. I never heard any of that kind of stuff. So bottom line was, this image had been created of him and that I thought was real. Bill Cosby's another one.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
I was a big fan of Bill Cosby.
Everybody, America's dad.
Yeah, and if those things happened, I mean, he went to prison for them. It's still hard to believe that happened, and I would have trusted that guy. And so you take a look at RussellBrand. I don't know if he's guilty or innocent, but it sure does, like you said, it sure does seem suspicious with the timing. And I have watched his show many times. The guy he's brilliant. Actually, he's got a very quick mind. He's got a quick wit, but he did. He seems to be the perfect guy to pull this off on, because of exactly what you just said. So if I was reading this book called Pawns in the Game, and it was talking about the French Revolution and how they used this gimmick on people to bring them down. It's called lymphemy, if I'm pronouncing that right. And they did the same thing to Marie Antoinette. Apparently, we remember Marie Antoinette as the let them eat cake person, and that she was very promiscuous. In fact, had affairs with the king, her husband's friends. And turns out that this was all a part of what's called lymphemy, where you have your propaganda media, much like we have here, that's controlled by one source, and everybody's now saying saying the same thing. And this put this thing on Marie Antoinette. In fact, what they ended up doing, get this is crazy. They bought this huge diamond, specially cut, saying that the queen had done this. And when they presented it to the queen, she was like, I didn't order this. But then all the news media wrote about it. Oh, we're in dire straits financially as a country, and here the Queen is getting this thing, and it was probably from one of her lovers, is what they said. And then they wrote a letter in the Queen's handwriting and sent it to one of the Catholic cardinals, saying that she wanted to meet him at a secret place at night to talk about this necklace. And so, of course, he went to the place, and they had dressed up this woman to look like Marie Antoinette. And then the scandal was that she's sleeping with this cardinal and everything. And of course, the end result was Marie Antoinette gets her head cut off in the guillotine. Okay, they've been doing this kind of thing to people for centuries. Yeah. And it's the same hand is doing this. Now, I'm not saying that I know this is happening with RussellBrand, but who knows? That's the problem with this kind of thing. And very what true. A brilliant and crafty and clever, brilliant's probably not, crafty and clever way of putting away any political enemies by just insinuating this stuff, and boom, they're done. I mean, well,
that's crazy. A good point. What strikes me, Merle, is the cohesiveness behind this, the organization behind it. And it always gets me. That always raises the flag. And he is always, Brand is always talking down mainstream media about the disinformation. It's funny, they're the ones that like to use the term disinformation, and yet they're the ones always supplying the disinformation.
Isn't that interesting? Yes.
Correct. And Tim Ballard, the guy, Sound of Freedom is based upon him, who used to be, it was CIA. He retired to go in to fight for these enslaved children on a personal level, start his own team. Well, now, and you remember, this boggles my mind, Merle. When Sound of Freedom came out, it all of a sudden, in an article I just read about this, was all slanted, talking about Tim Ballard. I don't remember if they said about RussellBrand or Tim Ballard, or maybe both, known for spouting QAnon-related propaganda, misinformation. But Sound of Fury came out, which is anti-slavery movie about children, and it was being censored in theaters in various ways. You had an experience.
Yeah, I sure did. I had a couple of experiences. It was Jim Caviezel is the one that they're nailing with the QAnon stuff.
That's right. Yes.
And so right away, these are QAnon conspiracies. So before the movie came out, they were all over Jim Caviezel with this whole thing. And then the movie comes out, and we went to it on the opening day. And we get there, and shortly before the movie came on, a movie employee came out and said, I have an announcement. We may not be seeing this movie today. The movie theater, or the studio, Angel Studios, never sent the key to unlock the film. So we're trying to get a hold of them now, but there's a chance this could be postponed or delayed. And so he came back like 10 minutes later to say they still hadn't gotten the key. And then he said, look, these people aren't Disney. They don't have their act together, so we'll give you your money back. So we ended up, I thought it was interesting that he compared it to Disney right away. This guy is a theater employee. And I thought, who told this guy to say this? Anyway, well, we got our money back, and it was all disappointing. Then we found out when we got back home that all kinds of weird stuff was happening. This was 4th of July weekend. All kinds of weird stuff was happening all throughout the country with the same kind of stuff, that they wouldn't play the movie, the key wasn't there, or the air conditioning was broken, and it was like 1,000 degrees. So we'll give you your money back, and if you want to see it, you can. And then the people that stayed, they burned up in the one theater. All the other theaters, the air conditioning works. That was happening. So anyhow, a few days later, we went back to see the movie, and we ran into another thing. When how they play the previews before the movie comes on. Well, these were at like 1 billion decibels. I couldn't even. I thought my ears were going to start bleeding the previews were so loud. It was like we were standing in the back of a jet or something. It was so loud. Anne Marie's covered up her ears and everything. She's got really sensitive ears. And I'm thinking, we're not going to be able to sit through this whole thing. And just as I was thinking, we got to get out of here, the movie came on and it was played at a normal level. We found out later that that was another thing that was happening around the country, was they were playing the preview so loud to drive people out of there. We almost left.
Let me ask you this. We'll have to go full conspiracy theory on this, because there's no other way around this.
You have to.
To me, the evidence points to, well, all you got to do is Google Sound of Freedom and see what kind of stuff comes up. And you're going to realize that there's a real war against this
coordinated effort. Yes. Yeah.
So I ask you, I swear to God, I can't answer this question. Why? What's it based on?
Believe, and this is okay, this is going to sound crazy.
This is my point. It's going to have to sound that crazy.
But I believe our federal government is involved with cartels in trafficking human beings.
Oh my God, dude, oh God.
I do. I believe that. I believe that there's no real other reason for doing this. You take a look at what's happening with the border right now.
Yeah.
We know that human trafficking is happening at the border.
Yep.
We've known that for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet we've destabilized the border on purpose. And now what are we looking at? We're seeing, I've never even seen anything like this. Armies of people are coming over the border. Yeah. In the meantime, the drug cartels are going crazy, sending fentanyl up through that border and trafficking it to people. Last year, we had over 100,000 deaths of overdoses. I think we can trace 80,000 of them to fentanyl overdoses. Mm-hmm. And we know that that's coming from there, but we also know that this is empowering the cartels, and the cartels are big into human trafficking. Here in the United States, human trafficking is at an all-time high, and we're talking about mostly little kids, and we're seeing kids disappearing all the time. And you would think that if we were real serious about this, that we would have mechanisms to prevent this from happening. But as you know, Mayorkas came out and said that there are 80,000 unaccounted minors that are somewhere here in the United States that came across the border, and more every day. And we're doing nothing to stop this. What do you think happened to those 85,000 kids? Then you take a look at Hawaii and what happened there in Maui, and all those kids came out of school that day and went home. They got called out of school early. Many of those kids died in the fire because they went home, and many of them are still there's a lot of weird rumors going on about where those kids are and what might have happened to those kids. There's a lot of mysterious things that are happening and unexplainable. And when you see the media machine on full attack on this movie, and you know who's controlling the media, and you know who's controlling our government now, because I tell you, Joe Biden's not the guy that's controlling anything.
I think we all know that.
And so this all is adding up to great suspicion when you take a look at what's happening in our federal government. And if you take a look at
Epstein's list,
what's the guy that did JFK?
Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone. So Sean Stone has just come out with, actually, it's been a while. He came out with The Best Kept Secret. It's a documentary. You want to check this out if you're interested in this stuff, because he's showing in there where this kind of stuff has been going on and in the news for decades now, how our federal government has been involved in this disgusting thing when it comes to human trafficking. Check it out. So this isn't a new thing. It's been going on for some time, and now it's getting too hot, and now it's on full attack. To me, it seems like there's some splaining to do from our federal government.
Yeah, start with Epstein's list, because I'm sure that's directly related as well.
Yes, and by the way, that's in the documentary as well that Sean Stone does. The Epstein and how they were able to come across Epstein, looking at this human trafficking. They weren't even targeting Epstein when they came across this whole thing. And this thing is diabolically huge.
Yeah.
And we also believe that Epstein was at least like a double, some type of a maybe sponsored by the CIA, maybe other foreign entities to entrap politicians into this blackmail that they could use. We have pictures of you with a small child. This is the lymphemy thing I was talking about from the French Revolution. It's the same thing, and it seems to be on full power right now. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that a lot of this is being used to control people and control really world governments. And for some reason, these people that have absolute power are attracted to this type of trap. And so I just believe this thing is on full power right now. Thank God that movie came out.
Well, I got to tell you, you've given me the only explanation that makes sense, as crazy as it sounds. Here's what I kept thinking, Merle, is we talk about 85,000 kids are gone, unaccounted for. That's just too much to wrap our heads around, so we just let it fly over. What if it were 200 kids? 200.
Isn't that something, Barry?
What
you just said makes so much sense. Stalin said it this way. He said, when one person gets murdered, drama, lots of drama. But a million people, that's just a statistic.
Yeah. I think maybe if it could be said, and I didn't do the math on it, but if it could be said 200 kids a day are being lost to
that would be a better way of doing it, right?
Yeah,
why don't they do that?
God,
they know this, Barry. They know exactly what you're saying right now, and people know this, and the ones that are in charge of our media. And I know I sound like such a crazy kook saying this, but how can you deny this after everything that we've seen here in the past 3 years in particular?
What if you know a little bit of something about MK Ultra? And what's the one with the giving Johns of prostitutes LSD? I forget what it's called, but it's like Project Trip Your Balls Off or something like that. But I mean, the things that we've done, we've given lobotomies to our citizens in New York.
We've introduced crack cocaine into the cities. That came from the CIA. We introduced LSD into our cities. That came from the CIA as well. Now we've talked about this drug called Trank, that xylomenophine. I don't know what that's called, but anyhow, it's killing people. And I suspect, that showed up during COVID. Interesting. And I hate to have to think like this, but we have to think like this now. Otherwise, we're going to get run over. This is deception at the highest degree. What's happening right now? Our government seems to have been captured, and as we're going into a new election season, we're on full lockdown of our media. I mean, think about this. Earlier last week, Kevin McCarthy came out and he announced the impeachment inquiry. 2 days later, the Biden administration sends a letter to all media outlets saying it's about time for you to start really holding these MAGA Republicans accountable for the lies that they're telling, and do not cover these lies the way that they want you to cover. These are all lies about Joe Biden. And so think about what's happened right there. We already had the Twitter files, and the federal government has already been busted, and a federal judge has come out and said, you can't go and talk to social media companies anymore. And yet the impeachment inquiry comes up, and the Biden administration goes right after the media and says, hey, don't cover this.
Right.
I thought this was America.
No, God, it's not anymore. It's not the America we used to know. I had a thought there, and it totally. Oh, I know what it was. So I see yesterday Gavin Newsom is interviewed, and he's singing Joe Biden's praises. And by the way, I tend to think the Dems are right on board with impeaching Biden. They're gonna get rid of him one way or another. They got a plan.
They're gonna let him get impeached. Here's. I agree with you though. I think that getting him going through an impeachment is the threat, because
they don't want to do it that way.
it's not even about Joe Biden. It's about I believe it's about the intelligence apparatus here in the United States, because what we saw happen before Joe Biden was elected was the New York Post came out with their article about the laptop from hell. And then you had the 52 intelligence officers. I think 3 of them were former heads of the CIA, saying that this was Russian disinformation. Now we know that it wasn't Russian disinformation, and we know that they knew that it wasn't Russian disinformation either. And so we go through this impeachment inquiry, and what's going to happen is a whole lot of stuff is going to come out about these people. And these people, remember, it was Schumer that was warning Trump about the intelligence apparatus here in the United States, and he was saying Trump had done a dumb thing because the intelligence apparatus can get you 5 different ways from Sunday. And so these people are very powerful. The CIA is what we're talking about here, and the FBI to some extent as well. This is this is what we're seeing happening right now, and this is a takedown of our society. And if it comes out in the impeachment trial, then everybody's going to know. And I think, this is just my personal opinion, that they've come out with, they know somebody pressed the button. Okay, Joe's got to get out of the pool. But they keep. And the impeachment inquiry was a big step towards that from the Republican side, but now they got to do something. And I think it's going to be the 25th Amendment.
Okay. I wouldn't doubt it.
25th Amendment is Joe Biden's own cabinet voting that he doesn't have the mental capacity to continue forward. The moment
they're told to say that, they will say it in unison.
You're right. And we already have seen this too. There was an article, or gosh, we saw the Morning Joe show where he and his wife were, I forgot her name, but
Minka.
They were
Mika.
Mika. Yeah. They were talking about Joe Biden and his mental capacity.
Yeah.
But I noticed that Morning Joe had his arms like this. And the nonverbals on that are pretty powerful. As he was standing like that, sitting like that, he was talking about how Joe Biden didn't have the mental capacity to be the president of the United States anymore. Wow. I mean,
what's
interesting about that is nothing's changed with Joe Biden's mental capacity, really. It's been like that ever since he's been the president. And so something's changed, and they know it. Now, who is going to step in to fill those shoes?
Gavin Newsom.
Because also you got another problem, which is Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that's a big problem.
So you do the 25th Amendment. Now Kamala's now the president, and I don't think they want that either.
Nope.
So they're going to have to figure out, what are they going to do with Kamala? So who do you think is going to be? You mentioned Gavin. Do you think
definitely. Yeah,
because there are many rumors going on out there that about Michelle Obama.
Oh, really?
Yes. And that she's gonna come out of the woodwork here. And
I gotta say something.
And she's gonna make a run for it. Go ahead.
This is really mean. I know it's all fake, but I think it's really funny. The whole Big Mike thing.
Yes.
what is the backstory on that? I don't know the full backstory. Like, is the story like Obama had a friend, Mike, Big Mike, and
no. Here's the thing: is that
not
Barack Obama has been caught on the microphone accidentally referring to his wife as Michael.
What?
And yes, we've got it on tape where Michael and he's talking about Michelle. That's actually where this whole thing is coming from. There's and here's the other thing, Barry. I don't know.
I believe that would be doctored. I'm not taking any of this seriously, but I'm just saying I do laugh.
I'm saying this, that
because she's a very handsome woman.
Well, and and I would also say that today it's scary out there because there are some guys that are transsexual that I wouldn't know that's a dude. I'm glad I'm married and not in the
Yeah.
in that, because there's some very attractive trans dudes that I wouldn't know. It's
Yeah.
like horrifying.
Yeah.
And so so here's the thing is that I don't know this whole thing, it seemed like, oh, what a conspiracy theory, right? But now I just don't know. I don't know.
I don't
Okay.
believe any of it, but I just find it funny when I hear Big Mike. I just crack up.
Well,
But
and then I mean, she is an unusual person. I don't know that. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know. A lot of weird things though in their past. It seems like we don't know a lot about those two,
yeah, yeah,
like their past, and
yeah.
I think that's by design.
That's kind of weird because like when what's her name, Hilaria Baldwin. We did a funny episode back when she was grifting. That was so funny. I just got the biggest kick out of that whole thing. How you say cucumber? And someone finally comes out on Twitter. I went to high school with you. You didn't have that weird accent then, and you're just a white girl. It was the weirdest thing that she even thought she could pull that off. Like, so the same thing goes for the Obamas. Aren't there hundreds of people that have known them their entire lives? At least dozens.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So,
I mean, you would think.
Yeah.
But here's the thing is that, it's kind of like the Manchurian Candidate, right? There are people that have been groomed for certain things for life. And so I'm not saying that that's what happened, but I know that kind of thing does happen. And so I don't know everything. If you take a look at the Obamas and where they came from with the Weatherman Underground thing and how they discovered Obama and those connections and how he was a social worker and somehow became the president within like a 5-year period of time. How could that even happen?
When did he change his name from Barry to Barack?
Yeah, see, and I have no idea, right? Everybody called him Barry, and then then suddenly he was Barack, and I mean, we just don't really know a lot about his past, really. I think they've done a great job of keeping that under wraps, and I mean, we this whole thing about where were you born and everything, why is that even an issue? I mean, gosh, if somebody questioned where I was born, that whole argument would be over in about 15 seconds.
Yeah, between the paperwork and friends and family.
Yeah. So how come that? I mean, it's actually still a thing. And I don't know. And just this, here's another thing. Barack Obama was, the first Black president, but as a Black person here in the United States and looking at Obama, he doesn't actually have the American Black legacy. He doesn't have any of that. I would say that Barack Obama is more of an African American than an American Black person, because Black people here in the United States have a few things going on. One is they have a legacy of slavery. Barack Obama doesn't have that. They also have, most Black people here in the United States, they have the white blood of their slave master owners on the inside of them. Barack Obama doesn't have that either. His mom is white. His dad is an African, and we don't know anything about his father or what his father was all about, which is very odd. And so here's this person who comes off as, hey, I'm one of you, but he's not one of us at all. And when I look at, well, what did he actually do for Black people as the president? And I look back and say, well, gosh, unemployment was at like an all-time high for Black people. Yeah, he had a lot of Black people in the White House that would come and party at the White House, but it didn't seem like it seemed like Barack Obama coming into office did a disservice to America, to American race relations, when it
Agreed.
should have been absolutely the opposite.
Yeah.
And when I look back at who Barack Obama is, he doesn't actually fit the mold of mainstream Black America. And to me, therein lies a question. What's going on here? What's up with this couple? And now they're living in this whole global warming thing, and they live right next to the ocean, but yet his biggest speech had to deal with the rising tides of the ocean. And when why did you move? See, everything about them is a mystery to me.
Yeah. All right, I hear you. Let's move on. Let's talk about someone who's been going through some bad times. It's Lauren Boebert. Boy, that story came out. I understand the way it blew up. First on Twitter, she was accused of going to a Beetlejuice live action play, something like that.
Yeah.
And getting kicked out. So she replied on Twitter. Her response was, well, I was just having such a great time and probably singing too loudly and and laughing too loudly, having too good of a time. Then more and more she keeps getting fed the videos, and I've seen the videos, her date feeling up her breast and her feeling up his crotch, and she's vaping. A pregnant woman behind her asked her a couple times to stop vaping. She refused. She flipped everybody the bird on the way out. I mean, this woman was just the epitome of trash at this time. And I find it embarrassing as an American. But here's what I do know is she barely got reelected. So her political career is done now. But at the same time, I don't know. She went through a messy divorce after being married for a long time. I know what those hard times are like. And she's relatively young. Isn't she like 37 or something?
She looks young. I have no idea how old she is.
And I know I've gone through bad periods and behaved not so good too during those bad periods where you're trying to find yourself, maybe drink a little too much and all of that. But I would have a lot more forgiveness for her if she would have right away said, I am so sorry for my behavior. I really, it took a long time and a lot of evidence to come out before she would go there. And so that's my take on it. You got anything to say about it?
All I got to say is this, that you're a congresswoman.
Yeah.
I mean, act like it. You know, I mean, like
at least
like
halfway
you said,
there.
hey, you've gone through times before, but you weren't a congressman. You know
That's
what I mean?
Good
like,
point, dude. That's a good point.
People weren't filming you 24/7, or when you walk into a theater, they're like, there's Barry Edwards, and everybody looks, and then you perform like that. Nobody would do that. It's outrageous. I saw a little bit of the video and I thought, what?
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like, first off, you're a congresswoman, and you're you have a role that you need to play, and secondly, you're a woman. Why let that happen in public like that? Why lower yourself like that?
Good points.
Like what kind of guy does that? And
I was wondering that too. He got no flack.
That's your boyfriend that just does that? What an animal that guy was. And you just let that happen? That's low class. I mean, low class. I mean, and then the vaping in there, that's just whatever. I mean, to me, that's just like goes with the territory that you're going to act like, of course you're going to vape there too. You don't care. Yeah. I mean, to me, it was a reflection of character, and it's too bad because she's really advanced the conservative cause all the time she's doing that. But then, when you do stuff like this, you nullify the good logic that you put out there before just by doing a selfish act like this. Why?
Very selfish. And on top of everything else, I forgot to mention this. She also pulled do you know who I am?
Oh, not that.
Yeah. So that's probably worse than any of it. Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I hate that, and it's too bad. You know what sucks about the whole thing though too is that when it comes time for election, and we talk about this all the time. A lot of times it comes to which is the worse evil, which one, and it might be that she's less evil than whoever it is that's coming up behind. And here's the thing: is it seems like politics just attracts the slimiest characters out there.
Agreed.
And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago about the pay structure and how we might be able to open that up. And then again, this whole partisan issue between Democrats and Republicans. And so when it comes up, people are going to be like, I'm going to vote for her because she's the Republican, without even thinking about what she stands for or what happened. It's like, I just got to get rid of these Democrats, or I just got to get rid of these Republicans. And so this is how we get this kind of stuff.
I got to tell you,
I wish that it was that we could just run on the merits of our character rather than the party that we represent.
And I want to back that up because I wanted to say that I think it was last show. I was talking about, well, how do we get through this divide, this political divide? And you were like, get rid of the parties.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about it and Lisa and I talking about it ever since. Brilliant. And especially in its simplicity.
Solve so many problems, right?
Yeah.
Well, just before the show, I was listening to this news show, and it was MSNBC actually, and they were talking about the election coming up and how dangerous Donald Trump is to democracy, and but they didn't actually explain why he was a danger to democracy. But it was all about we can't let the Democrats, can't let the Republicans, can't let MAGA take over. Right. MAGA is evil and the Democrats are good. But it was just in this whole, like, the way they say MAGA too. I mean, I wish that Make America Great Again couldn't spell an acronym, because the way they say MAGA, like, you might as well say maggot. And it sounds almost like a swear word. It is a 4-letter word. I mean, and it's perfect. It's perfect fodder for the Democrats to use against the Republican. Oh, the MAGA Republicans, and the way that they can say that it's not all Republicans, just MAGA Republicans. Okay, so what Republicans don't want to make America great again?
Right. I don't know. This is where I get confused.
What person would say that America is great right now?
Oh, not me.
Okay, because if you take a look at the news, and we're seeing percentages right now in the news and these polls where Democrats and Republicans alike realize that we're in a world of crap right now. Our inflation is sky high. The gas prices are sky high, record highs right now. Bidenomics is not working, despite the Inflation Reduction Act. We have,
and in spite of the lies they tell us how great everything is, it's all a lie.
Our cities are decaying. We have illegal aliens that have taken over our cities and did you see what happened in New York this week with Ocasio-Cortez and Jerry Nadler? Oh my gosh, you got to see this, you guys. They came to New York. New York is on fire. We talked about this last time where Eric Adams came out and talked about how this is not sustainable. Well, guess what? AOC and Jerry Nadler came there to a hotel in New York City that they just kicked out all of the patrons, and now they've got these migrants living in there, and they went to give a presser in front of this hotel about how great New York is for doing this. And they got a real surprise, because what happened was people from New York came and they were not having it. The AOC couldn't. She gave her whole speech, and so did Nadler. You couldn't even hear them because these New Yorkers were acting like true New Yorkers. I was wondering when New Yorkers were going to wake up, because when you're dealing with a true New Yorker and you cross them, you better look
these
out.
People in.
They did, but now they can see, and it seemed like a riot was going to happen over there. This thing that they've done to our cities is dramatic, and I don't know how we come back from this, Mary. It seems like an invasion force has come here, because when you take a look at when you take a look at the crowd that's coming in, it's mostly young men of fighting age, very few women that you see, and they're coming in from all parts of the world.
Yeah.
And you have to wonder, who's paying for this? How are they all able to get? I mean, I know one thing, that if I wanted to take a trip to, let's say, India, I'd have to save up all year long and maybe for a couple of years to be able to do this. But this massive amounts of people that are coming over, that they say they're fleeing, climate disaster and all this kind of stuff. But they're so poor and everything. How come their clothes look really nice? How come their shoes are nice? How do they afford to do all of this? It seems to me that somebody's paying for this to happen. And we've seen this kind of invasion before, and we've seen how it changes a country. This seems to be what we're involved in right now. And I don't know how we turn the clock back on this. I mean, how do we do this? And we also know this. Are these people going to start voting during the next presidential election? Are we going to see that? Because I think that's what the plan is.
Oh, I'm sure that's what the plan is. Yeah.
So that totally changes America, changes the dynamics of America, and we can never get it back. And so this, going back to the news story that I saw this morning, it was all about these election deniers, and they were showing a map of the United States of where all the election deniers are located. Oh, surprise. They're all in the Republicans areas, right? Yeah. And funny thing is that we're building up this narrative before the election, and we've got all this COVID stuff coming out, and there's a new vaccination, we better start masking up, and all these rules and everything like that. There's a storm brewing, man.
I agree. Hey, with that, just got a couple more things myself. I don't know what you have, but this one's important. And like I said, Lisa told me to watch the 5 segment on this, the Fox the 5 segment, which I haven't been watching for a very long time because I haven't found them covering much interesting stuff. But I did cover the story about the teen driver who appears to, and this is in Vegas, I think, Nevada, and intentionally hit and kill retired police chief in viral video. His name's, and I'll say it wrong, Andreas Probst, formerly headed the Bell Police Department in California. And you guys have maybe you've seen the video. I don't know. It's not, you're not going to find it on mainstream media. I just want to really mention what Greg Gutfeld said about it, because I thought it was extremely profound. And he said, you won't see this heinous crime on mainstream video because the pigment doesn't match the narrative. And he says that because there's 2 black kids, and you should hear the video.
Yeah. Yes,
because of the glee,
what they're saying. Yes,
with this murder, and as he says, like, he goes, understand though, like, the driver of this car was 13 when the George Floyd thing happened, and that was, you didn't hear about the fentanyl use, you didn't hear about his criminal past and all that. You just heard about the white cop, and that was heinous enough. It was. And then he goes, he was 7 or 8 when, is it Michael Brown? Don't stop, don't shoot, hands up, don't Michael shoot, Brown. Which didn't happen. Completely a lie out of context. He didn't even mention a lot of the other ones that are escaping me at the moment. But, the one in Florida with the guy.
Oh yeah, where they said he wanted to kill gay people at the gay bar.
There's that one. There was another one
too. That he wasn't actually he wasn't targeting gay people, and had nothing to do with that whatsoever. Go ahead.
It's always taken out of context, and so he says you got to see how we created this narrative, this environment. And he goes, the reality is that we clearly have a supply and demand problem. We don't have enough racism for the demand for the racism, like enough real, true incidents of this white supremacy. So, you can't show this one where a freaking retired police chief gets murdered. So it's terrible. We have to be able to talk about the environment that we created that brings upon things like this, because the media is complicit in this murder.
That's exactly
creating.
right. When I saw this video, that's exactly the first thing that I thought was, we've created this
Mhm.
type of individual out
Mhm.
there that thinks that this is a righteous thing to do, is
Yeah.
go out there and kill white people.
Yeah.
And unbelievably, these people seem to not have a conscience whatsoever about
Right.
this crime that they committed. They just cold-bloodedly ran this guy down. And as a cycler, both of us
Disgusting.
as cyclers,
Yes.
I mean, this guy had no idea this was even coming. He came
Right.
up behind this guy and just ran him down, and he was out right away. I guess he died at the hospital. Yeah, I read that his daughter, he had an app on his phone. You can get these apps where it'll tell your loved one if you fell down, and exactly where your location was. So she got the alert on her phone that her dad had fallen down. She got with her mother and went over there, and when they got there, he wasn't there, but they found his wallet and they found I think his watch was over there, and they were panicked, like, oh my God, what's happened? Yeah. And of course, then they searched for him, and then they found out later he had died in the hospital. How incredibly tragic and how horrible. And this guy's a minor. I think he should be charged as an adult.
He's going to, because he has priors.
Okay, good. And he should never see the light of day again. And
sure.
The guy that was with him is an accomplice. He's just as guilty. The law convicts him just like the other guy. These guys should never see the light of day again. Unfortunately, the society created these kinds of monsters, but there is a thing called personal accountability that seems to be sorely lacking, and our Justice Department better take care of this, because what they've done, when Joe Biden gets out there and says the greatest problem in America, and he just said this on the campaign trail, is white supremacy, is a bold-faced lie. He's endangering Americans by doing that. And we've got much bigger fish to fry than white supremacy here in the United States.
You got deep state to worry about.
And yes. And also, what are we doing in Ukraine? What in the world are we doing over there right now? They've hidden everything that's going on, and they keep pumping billions and billions of dollars. That's what's causing inflation to go up. And my tax dollars, it seems like, are being used to murder people with. I'm not into that. And somebody better start explaining what they're doing over there, because that, to me, seems like the biggest problem is that we're causing the beginning of World War III. I think that's a much bigger problem than white supremacy here in the United States. When's the last time I saw a white supremacist? I haven't. I don't know. Not any time in the last couple of decades. So I don't think that's the biggest problem yet. When I go to the store, I'm paying 3 times more than I was just a few years ago. I think that's a bigger problem than white supremacy. And when I go down to downtown and I see all these homeless people that came across the border that we don't know what to do with, that are causing crime and infestation in our cities, I think that's a bigger problem than white supremacy. What the hell? I can't even believe that they're even trying to tell us this, and anyone's buying that. Insane. Okay, I got to calm down.
No, dude, no, you're right you're right where you should be. And no, it's complete insanity. And I don't know. That's why free speech is so under fire, because when we speak out, we start to get threatened, and they start digging up things on the past. That RussellBrand thing, doesn't that
really
just
bugs me?
Doesn't that just reek of the Kavanaugh hearings?
It really does. It really does. If you listen to what, go ahead.
No, bring out his yearbook and people from high school and stuff.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, he drank beer in high school. Terrible. Yeah. I mean, but this whole thing, if you listen to what RussellBrand is saying, he's ripping the lid off of all of this deception that's going on, and he does it in a fun way. His personality is fun. He's extremely witty. He puts things together in a way that it's like, gosh, I hadn't thought of it that way before. Is really incredibly thoughtful. And of course, the powers that be are not going to want this. And look at all the people they've been putting away. They love to do this kind of stuff. Matt Gaetz, remember, he was very prominent in defending President Trump and the two impeachments that he had, and then suddenly it came out where he was dating these underage girls.
Oh, right.
And okay, and I don't think that was true. But this is the kind of thing they do, is as soon as somebody's from going after the deep state, they're going to paint this guy as a sexual predator, and he's done. Especially, I mean, it doesn't really work that way on the left, because these people can go on and on and on in infamy. But if on the right, if you just paint that on a guy that's supposedly a conservative, and that guy's done.
There is an amazing,
just like we talked about Lauren Boebert, like, she's done, right?
Yeah.
But if that happened to somebody on the left, like this woman that's running for office that did like these sex videos with her husband, that's out there, she's probably going to get elected.
She'll probably be president.
Yeah, she probably will be, So there's a double standard. There is a two-tiered justice system that's happening here. And it's crazy how it seems like a lot of people don't notice this, but I think more and more the majority of people are seeing this.
I definitely believe that as well. Did you have anything else that you
One more thing I think is interesting is the JFK assassination. As we've got RFK Jr. running, I think that's really interesting. But
I do too.
But recently it's come out, and let me just pull this article up, that and this is something that Oliver Stone was really big into and really put a lot of questions in, was the magic bullet theory.
Yes.
And according to new bombshell testimony from a Secret Service agent who was on the ground at the JFK assassination, it turns out that the Warren report has a few holes in it. In fact, the testimony of this Secret Service agent, who just spoke out for the first time in 60 years, refutes a key claim of the government regarding the magic bullet. The details about the stretcher are so important because one of the main reasons is that the magic bullet theory has been so widely accepted is because the bullet was allegedly discovered on the stretcher of the Texas governor, John Conley. And so the official government explanation has been that there was only one shooter, Lee Harvey Oswald, who fired those 3 shots, and one of which was able to strike and kill President Kennedy before also striking Mr. Conley in multiple different places. That's why it's a magic bullet, because how could that happen? And so,
it's pristine.
Exactly, Barry. Right. And so according to the testimony of this Secret Service agent, it was he who discovered the pristine-looking bullet, and he found it in the back seat of the limousine right where the president had been sitting. Then, in order to prevent the bullet from getting lost, he placed it in his pocket and then later on the stretcher belonging to the president. According to the investigation that was undertaken after the assassination, based on the type of gun that Lee Harvey Oswald used to shoot at the car, it was somewhere between unlikely to impossible for him to have had enough time to reload and shoot again. And so, if Mr. Conley was indeed shot by a second or even a third bullet, that would very likely mean that there was at least one other shooter somewhere out in the crowd. Interesting, I think.
That will finally come out. The whole story will finally come out.
Have you ever been to the site in Dealey Plaza? I've been there a couple of times, and it's fascinating because the first thing that you realize is that it's a lot smaller than you thought it was going to be, because it seems like it's got to be huge, right? But it's very tight and compact. But then when you're standing where they have a little X on the street where the kill shot happened, when you're standing over there and you realize that Kennedy was moving at about 10, 15 miles per hour, and he was going on a downward slope, and this building where the shot was like 5 stories up, and when he was at the kill shot, it probably would have been more like 8 stories because he was going downhill. And also the whole magic bullet, and then you look at the Subverter tape and you see, especially the kill shot, everything's going back to the back of the limousine, not forward in front of the limousine. If you shot somebody in the back of the head, stuff would go forward, but that's not what happened. It seems like, and they talk about the grassy knoll, it seems more like, because they were heading towards an overpass, it seems more like somebody was there. There's a train track that goes across, and took a shot from up there, one or more people. But this whole thing, as we see RFK Jr. not getting the Secret Service protection, the first president to not get that, all this is seemingly, connected to each other. And what a coincidence that this came out at this time. I just thought it was interesting.
I think RFK Jr. is very brave.
I do really too. I got to say, I admire the guy. I don't know enough about his politics yet because they've been censoring him, but I've
heard about 6 different podcasts he's been on. I've listened to all of them.
I read his book, The Real Dr. Fauci, and my gosh, the research that he did to put that together is amazing. The footnotes that he has, I always look at the bibliography and the footnotes, and I study that kind of stuff. Sometimes I'll pick a book out of the bibliography and read that too. And this is packed. Every chapter he does, he's got the footnotes at the back of the chapter, and they're like 10 pages of footnotes on every chapter that he does. It's crazy.
It's kind of, you and I had the conversation a few weeks ago. He's in that same boat where you got to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. You cannot afford to not put one footnote in there. Otherwise, it'll be misinformation. That's labeled, stamped, boom. Never listen to another thing he says. Right. And they're already doing it regardless.
Do you think that he doesn't have a chance at winning the Democrat vote? Do you think he's going to move over to independent, or does he have a chance?
Well, I just always remember what Tulsi Gabbard said on a podcast. I just don't remember the reasoning behind it, but she said that the powers that be got so afraid of the Ross Perot movement back then that they made it such that an independent party could never work. It just could never, you could never get elected. I don't remember the reasoning.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think so. And does RFK have any chance? I mean, well, like Tulsi Gabbard, people that had any decency loved her, but she wouldn't accept corporate funding. And so the deep state part of the party was like, there's no way we're putting you in there. I mean, we're all bought off. And so they wouldn't back her at all, even though she's a woman of color and a woman and checks the boxes, it's and
so
brilliant.
Funny about that. Yeah. All the boxes they made, she was the perfect candidate.
Yeah.
And then Joe Biden was the opposite of all those.
Yes. Never worked a day in his life.
That had been in government all his life. Yeah. It was like the guy they said they didn't like. And that's so crazy.
No, that's hypocritical. So it drives me crazy. So no, I don't think RFK has any shot whatsoever. And it is too bad, but he's bringing awareness. It's kind of like Ross Perot. And Tulsi's done the same. Tulsi said something. She and another guy were on Rogan, mostly talking about the Maui thing because she's Hawaiian.
Oh, yeah.
And towards the end of it, Rogan's like, so, what are you doing politically these days? And she said something like, I'm exploring an option and I might announce that very soon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, speaking of Hawaii, though, boy, those people, my prayers go out to those people. They're still dealing with a world of crap over there. Yeah. And the FEMA's out there. I read an article this week where a lot of people had donated supplies, and FEMA went and collected all the supplies that had been donated. And they're like, we're in charge of distributing this. And the people are saying, well, we're not even seeing, they're not distributing. We're hardly getting anything. And so something really horrible has been happening there. Don't forget about the people in Maui, because I see where this is coming out of the news cycle, but these people are still in dire straits out there, and they seem to be this doesn't look good.
You say don't forget about them, but everyone forgot about the people in North Palestine. And
they sure did. Yeah,
crappy environment.
And I mean, I still see videos, especially from this couple that's out there that go out to the water, the river, and they show you, like, if you stir up that water at all kinds of oil rises to the top, and all kinds of crazy chemicals you can see. So the whole place has been completely contaminated. haven't seen Joe Biden there one time.
No.
Buttigieg was there once. It was embarrassing. It was
Yeah.
like 5 weeks after it happened. It seemed, we know that this was a very conservative town as well.
Yeah.
That's just been, like you said, forgotten.
Yeah.
And gosh, there sure has been a lot of train crashes and wrecks and fires and weird places, like our food storage areas catching on fire and all this kind of stuff. A lot of weird things going on here.
Yeah. Okay, with that, let's lighten this thing up a little bit. This is kind of cool though. So the James Webb telescope seems to have found a planet could possibly have life. This is a little early yet, but this is a new finding. Planet K2-18b. Scans with different rays of light, and what light typically passes through the atmosphere and the planet itself, but where certain kinds of light, so that all kinds of different kinds of light, frequencies of light, and certain light that doesn't pass through is it's dimethyl sulfide, DMS. Okay, which on Earth is only, so there seems to be a bunch of dimethyl sulfide on this planet, which on Earth is only produced by living things like phytoplankton in our oceans. And this, so it seems that they have also found methane and CO2, which suggests it could have a liquid ocean filled with this phytoplankton. So researchers say it will take about a year to collect more conclusive data. So that's all that was.
Yeah,
I did think that was very interesting. I knew as soon as that telescope got out there, if it made it out there, there'd be some really interesting findings. And
that was a beautiful shot too.
Yeah.
Apparently couldn't be that's not in our solar system, is it?
Oh God, no. I don't remember. No, not even. No,
it's
something like
galaxy?
125,000 light years away. Wrap your head around that.
I can't actually.
I know.
Is that possible?
No, it's really crazy that the reach is. What's also really crazy is when you think about like the kind of new communications that they've created. In other words, you can send all these different wavelengths of light out there, and from scientific studies, which one passed through different kinds of matter.
Yeah,
and so
that's pretty amazing.
You start putting things together that way. That's something else.
It's mind-blowing. That's mind-blowing when you start really trying to wrap your head around that whole thing. And wow. Pretty cool stuff, man.
On that note, I didn't tell everybody, okay, we're coming out at a weird time. Hope to have this out this afternoon. And it's Tuesday. The reason for that is that we are going to Asheville again, North Carolina, do some exploring, be out there Thursday through Sunday. So definitely wanted to get this out a little bit early because we missed a week, and I don't want to go too long.
Yeah.
How many things that we had to talk about?
Well, lots of things, lots of good things. Hey, that reminds me, for all of you watching out there, don't forget to like us online and leave a comment for us as well. We eat that stuff up. It's like gasoline in our tank, and we want you to share this with all of your friends, not just some of your friends, all of them. They need to hear this. So go to your email list and just mass blanket it out there. Put this on your LinkedIn, put it on Facebook, all your social media. Share it. People need to know this because they're not getting the news or anything or even any insights anywhere else. So share us, please.
I really appreciate that. And you made me think, Merle, that we had a comment, and I don't remember if it was on our latest video or one prior to that. I'm kind of thinking it was one prior to that. And it was a nice comment. It was from a friend I met. I think I found it here. His name is Scott. We walk dogs together on Saturdays. And but what his comment basically said is, boy, I don't agree with a lot of what these guys say.
Good. I like that.
Right. And
did he say anything specific, though?
No. I know this one's it. So I'll tell you exactly. I know this one. My third one I'm looking at here. Okay, 2 comments. First of all, this is terrible. First thing he said is, FYI, Peter Frampton isn't dead. I think you're the one that announced that he was dead. I Googled it. Yeah, he's not dead.
I didn't say. I don't think I said he was
really.
dead. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Maybe I did. Okay. So he says, enjoying the podcast, although not usually on the same page politically. I like hearing people with different viewpoints discuss things intelligently. Barry, Layla, and I walk with you on Charlie most Saturdays. So that was very nice. I replied, hi, Scott. Thank you so much for the comment. I'm glad you're open-minded to different viewpoints, kind of a theme to the show. Merle and I disagree all the time. Thank God. I'd hate to live in a bubble. Just looked up Frampton. Oh my God, what a mistake. One of many.
Oh well. Hey, he came back to life. It was a miracle.
We gave him a second chance.
Yeah, we brought him back. That's what we do here. Hey, that was a good comment. I like that. So this is somebody that you walk with?
Yes. On Saturdays, we do the pack walk at that one other park a couple miles away.
I like that. Yeah.
It's really
and again, we love the comments, and I know how it is. It's oh geez, you got to click that button. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, we do love the comments
because we want to hear from you out there.
More than anything, I like that someone that disagrees with us politically can actually watch the show and comment on it without being too offended. That's again really one of the themes.
Like you said, we disagree with each other all the time.
Constantly.
So but that's healthy. It's healthy. I watch MSNBC. It's healthy. So if we pigeonhole ourselves, we're gonna be brainwashed. So we got to be open to listen to all sides and then weigh it out in our own hearts here, and just be open to the fact that you could be wrong. I could be wrong about everything that I know. And the more open we are to that, the more I think it opens us up to growth and really being a well-rounded human being. So I really appreciate that about the show personally from my own.
It's open. Merle and I have had personal conversations about this a lot, about how much we've grown in what we think. And here's the number one thing. Know that they're trying to keep us divided. So that's why I really never pick a side. I don't identify with a team. And I love what Merle says about let's get rid of parties altogether. Oh, they'll never do that. They'll never do that. They need to keep us divided. So yeah, please try to keep your mind open, because if you do pick a side, dig your heels in, you're a pawn. You're doing their bidding.
You're a pawn in the game. You're exactly right. And speaking of that, I mean, on our moniker, it says that I'm from LA and I'm a Republican.
Still says that?
But I am a Republican, but I'm not in LA. I'm in Phoenix. But I have really thought hard about, am I really a Republican? Because I got to say, I'm embarrassed by the Republicans, and I think I'm more of an independent.
Independent.
I think that's what I am now, because I can see both sides, and I feel like again, I used to work at that amusement park. It's almost like, which game do you want to play? The one on this side of the street or over there? But both of them are going to rip you off. So
that's
they
true.
all have their little gimmick going on here. So
for what it's worth, I am a registered Democrat, but I became extremely dismayed with them during Obama's second term, primarily. And I know with labels, we need our labels and to know what shoebox you fit in. I think I fit more tightly into a libertarian one, for what that's
I think you
worth.
do too. I think, as we've talked throughout the years, I think that's exactly what you are. And that's a good thing. Yeah. And I just is very logical in that libertarian party. I'm a fan of John Stossel and listen to The Logic, and it's like, that guy makes a lot of sense. I don't agree with everything he says, but who agrees with everything anybody says? Right.
I'll tell you what, if RFK got elected president, got a foothold in there, and there was a giant movement to clean up the party, I'd be a proud Democrat again.
I might be too. I mean,
right.
I just want what's right for the country is what I want. And I have my standards, my golden rule kind of standards, do unto others as you would have done unto you. And as long as we're practicing that, I'm down with that.
And it's called the Constitution of the United States.
Amen.
Yeah.
It's a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, certainly is. And again, like Merle said, guys, please share. Sign up at over50startingover.com. Get all this to your email box as it happens. I'll put the link to that anxiety reducing video in there.
Yeah, that was cool, Barry.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. I had a blast. Can't wait to do it again.
All right, have fun out there, man, in Asheville.
Thank you. All right, I'll let you know. All right.
Okay, bye.